All right, everyone. Welcome back here. I've got a special guest, as you can see, Mr. Adam Lewis Walker. He's calling in today from Michigan. It's early morning for him, late night here for me in Asia. Adam is a keynote speaker, TEDx best-selling author, and host of a podcast I've been checking out called Awaken Your Alpha. So welcome to the show, Adam, and we can kind of go back and forth interviewing each other since you're a lot bigger expert in this field than I am. You've got over 300 episodes recorded. So,
hey, well, thank you, but hey, don't put yourself down. You know, volume is not always the key, but you know, it is good to. It's definitely a component of achieving mastery is putting the hours in, but you can keep doing something, can keep being, you know, stuck in a rut. But you know, I like to think I've got an idea around interviewing, speaking, and authoring books or a book or two. So thanks for having me. This is awesome. This is my first ever interview for Korea, based in Korea. And as I've said just before the interview, the best backdrop ever. What you've got set up. I need to up my backdrop game. I thought I had it nice with a little screen in the background, some blue there, and a whiteboard. But man, you've top trumped me on the backdrops here.
Well, yeah, that's how we do it in Asia. Like you said, you thought that this behind me was like a backdrop view. I'm like, no, this is like a real beach and a real bridge there. I'm like, I'm sorry for the noise. There's a bunch of drunk people out here partying on the beach every night. So
it really looks like a fake backdrop. Is that good?
Yeah. I could open the window to show people it's not, but yeah, I guess they'll take my word for it. But that's awesome, man. Yeah, I've been checking out your videos, really inspiring stuff. Maybe why don't we start sharing about your book?
Oh, love to. So there's definitely a theme here. We talked about, briefly touched on sort of going deep in a certain area. And I think it's very tempting to sort of jump around, especially if you're easily excited like me, to jump around from one thing to the next. But for the last going on almost 5 years now, I've really dug into the subject matter around Awaken Your Alpha and what does that mean, which we can talk about. So the podcast has been going over 4.5 years. The TEDx talk, Awaken Your Alpha, was about over 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago now. And the book was just out this month, Awaken Your Alpha. So there is a theme, and I'm going deep in there. And that was kind of we talk about the origins, but also creating something that you don't feel like, oh, I've got to change, or I'll get this done and I'll move on type scenario. Like it's the same as your life. A lot of people try and do something and then I'll get out and like I'll move on to the next thing. But how about you just create something, create your life like as you're clearly doing out there, something that you don't need to retire from, that you don't need a break from, that you just, you know, that work and play lines just blurring. And it's not easy, but it's inspiring and the rewards are huge. And I'm not talking financial necessarily. I'm talking about the fulfillment, the happiness, the being on a mission. It's just a completely different slant on things. And I know a lot of people who earn loads more than me and do, like, in theory, by traditional success, in theory on paper, they're smashing it, but they're not happy. And, you know, their life is dictated by someone else. It's a long hours in one arena, as in their job or their work, and they're not massively into that. It's they're kind of live to work or work to live. I don't know, you know, there's a perspective around that, but so the book, ultimately it came from a message and something in deep in my core that I cannot shut up about, and I love to talk about, which is handy. Otherwise, this would drive me insane because I've been talking about it a lot. But that's why the TEDx talk really ended up being the framework and getting more clarity of what is Awaken Your Alpha. So I broke it down into awareness, action, and ascension. And that ended up being the three main acts in the book. So it's 1,000 Tactics to Thrive, over 330 something episodes now. Wow. And I've taken the best episodes and pieces of episodes and interviews and inspiring stories. And there's a framework in there as in like how to awaken your alpha. But then I've acknowledged that I'm not going to have all the best examples personally. Some of mine are great. And then I've interviewed someone who's like the first deaf player in the NBA about grit and perseverance. And he making the NBA when he was 26, when apart from being the first deaf player to make it, everyone had passed him on, but 26 to be a rookie in the NBA is like you're a granddad. And everyone's like, yeah, you obviously, clearly there's a reason people have passed on you. So I think his viewpoint around that is probably more inspiring than mine in some scenarios. And so I've I've taken no kind of ego in terms of if someone's got, I think, a better example of illustrating a point that I want to illustrate. We've got these stories in there, and it's a very international theme. So the podcast and the book, I always interview English, American, Australian, African, Asian. It's very much, I wanted to have that global alpha environment, and that's where it's, such varied environments.
Yeah.
But there's some serious, once you start noticing the similarities, you're like, oh, there may be something in this.
Yeah. Success leaves clues, right? As they say. Who was the NBA player, out of curiosity? I'm a huge basketball fan.
Oh yeah, I know. So Lance Allred. You would love the book.
Lance Allred. Yeah, no, I'll have to look that up and check that out. Yeah, man.
Yeah, just check out the interview on that. But it's his chapter. I mean, we can dig into that one if you want, because I love to dig into specific ones. His actual chapter where he's featured. Let me just get the exact title.
Yeah, while you're looking at that, yeah. I saw a video today on Instagram about a blind basketball player. I couldn't believe it. He was a high school kid. He had a vision impairment, so he wasn't totally blind, but like super limited vision. And he just, like this coach said, he just picks it up with his other senses. Like
yeah.
It was really incredible to hear that, especially for I played professional basketball in the Philippines and had a scholarship in university.
Wow.
So,
wow. Yeah. Well, we can. I mean, I'm happy to dig into that, and because obviously I love basketball. If you're into it, but just for the principles for anyone who's even not into basketball. So his chapter is called "Opportunities Are Not Immortal," and it basically starts off with along the lines, opportunities are all around you. The more overworked, stressed, and run down you are, the less likely you are to see them. And these opportunities are not immortal. The lifespan of the majority, if not all of them, is unknown. You have to commit not just to pursuing the opportunity, but getting the most out of each you decide to run with. And the quote that I put in the book that was actually one of Lance's favorite quotes that he put up in every locker that he had for every basketball team throughout his career: do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. It's Dylan Thomas. And
rage.
Because he, on top of that, his origin story, he came from a polygamy community. So, and he basically escaped from that. He didn't take up basketball until he was like 14 years old or something like that. Wow. He was a late starter, and he got ejected from his first game because the ref thought he was ignoring him. If you want to talk about overcoming adversity, and then he was the big guy, and so he, let's say, compensated. He made sure he stand with his back to the basket so he could see all the players around him, and he was the one basically directing everything because he couldn't hear anyone. So he was the one shouting at everyone and all that sort of stuff. And then the grit around it, what he basically attributes to him getting to the NBA when he did, is he decided it was a conscious choice to run himself ultimately into the ground, go that step further than everyone across the board for any training session. So when he was in, not even the NBA team, when he was in the some D League that he scraped in, and he was like the token guy sitting on the end of the bench to do some media. When the starter got traded and someone was injured, he got one shot, and the coach literally said to him, "We're going to have to put you in tonight. I've got a replacement, but he's not going to be here till tomorrow, so you're going to have to start tonight. Just, don't make any mistakes. Just don't worry about scoring anything. Just try and hold it down." He went on and scored 30 points, kept that spot, and then led the league on stats, then got a call up to the NBA. Bosh, job done. Because when he got his opportunity, he always said he wouldn't have to get ready. He was ready, and he was being laughed at in training sessions because his game was the training sessions. So he would run that extra meter every time. On any drill, any break, he would run to the baseline, touch it with his hand. This is a big guy, like 6'10". He just said it's just not done. And everyone thought he was absolutely insane. But then when he got his chance, he was able to, produce.
Well, I know how difficult those drills are. I'm 6'7" myself, and
wow.
It's hard to keep up with those little guards, man. Especially when
it's a long way down to the ground as well.
Well,
you guys.
When I was playing in the Philippines, man, they're so fast and small.
Yeah.
Like it's just a whole different game than back in North America. It was crazy just how fast these little guys are. But it's good. Well, I was checking out your bio and everything. Like you were looking at getting into the Olympics, right? Like you were on the brink of.
That was always my, my big vision, even from when I was young, like even before I kind of, any kind of event or sport really was kind of coming into focus. It was like, oh, I love the Olympics. That's like so inspiring. I love to watch them, and like the variety of events. It was almost like there's, you're going to be, if you choose to dedicate, there's a good chance, if you've got that mindset, that there's going to be something, if you dedicated yourself to it, that you could get to the Olympics in, because, whether it's, shooting, biathlon, duathlon, some kind of wrestling or athletics, track and field, like all this, every new Olympics, you're like, oh my goodness, is that in the Olympics? When they bring in like the new events for certain hometowns and stuff. And so I would just, the whole ideals behind that combination of mind, body and will, I just loved it. And so that was, an early vision without details that I don't have any tattoos, for example. The only tattoo I ever envisioned myself was the Olympic rings, like on my shoulder, but only if I got to the Olympics. So I don't have the Olympic rings, unfortunately.
Right. Well, yeah, man, like that's, I've been to a couple of Olympic games myself, and just the level of those, like not as an athlete, but to go and watch, obviously.
Yeah, no, I went to the Athens 2004 Olympics, and that was awesome. One of my teammates was competing in the pole vault, British record holder. It was just so good.
Yeah, just the level. And like you said, it's at that level, it is more mindset than almost training, like that's really what the slight advantage. And it's man, it's definitely next level, and it's the top of the top as far as what the human body can achieve. And it's awesome stuff. Let's transition to your TED talk. Like I was watching how you got involved in that and your process, and how did those doors open up for you? Because I actually did a TEDx talk myself, and I'm always curious how other people kind of What was your talk called? It was called "People Aren't Passports," and it talked how I've traveled to about 35 countries, and how I noticed how basically wherever you go, people are the same. Like don't look at people like what passport they hold or where they're from. We're all brothers and sisters of the human race. I talked a lot about traveling through like the Middle East and all the history of Israel and the conflicts there with the ancient religions and stuff. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's just people wanting to believe in something more than themselves. And now all these wars have started about. So I kind of talked about how, we kind of created this society of all these borders and countries, when in reality, we're all just brothers and sisters of the human race. So that was kind of my, what my topic was.
Awesome.
But yeah, how about yourself?
So, as I touched on, so Awaken Your Alpha, and the concept behind it, because the subtitle was basically how to rise up and overcome adversity, because we touched on the athletics, or I was a pole vaulter, and I was trying to get to the Olympics in any shape or form. It was 2008, and I was 28, so just in my mind, getting into my prime, and I'd had sort of 7 years where I tore my groin, coming back from it, little injuries, little niggles, and I really felt like as an adult, as a man, I was just coming into it and got all the stuff out of the way, having a good season injury-free, never had any knee problems, for example. I remember actually saying that season, and I got into my biggest competition. I got a personal best that year, first time, as I say, in 7 years. So started getting into some bigger competitions, got more consistent throughout the season as well, which is obviously for something like that, it's very individual, and literally you're raising the bar and you've got to have that consistency to just, which is quite a crazy thing, running full pelt with a pole and launch. So it was this British summertime. So obviously it was horizontal rain, UK challenge final, biggest competition I'd ever been in. Lots of family members came out of the woodwork, some that had never seen me vault ever. And they had the opportunity to move it indoors, where the crowd wouldn't have been able to see it then for safety. But they decided, no, it's all good. You can pole vault in the rain. And it was like torrential, horizontal, run up was flooded, bed was flooded. So it's like vaulted into a swimming pool, and not particularly warm though in England. And it wasn't a question of, if someone's going to get injured, it was who. And it does in in reality, it does level the playing field. I was probably one of the lowest ranked in that competition. So if it was perfect conditions, that likely I would have finished, you never know, but I would have finished maybe lower down the field. But because of this, it came into almost like that Rocky mentality. Who wants it the most and what are you willing to risk or sacrifice? So I was in fourth place. I got into the top four. It's a knockout scenario as the bar. So there's only 4 of us left. So if I clear one more height, I'm likely going to get a medal. Don't even know what color. And you do become obsessed with, in track and field, a medal. So fourth place is like ninth place. It's like, it's worse than ninth place because you're so close to a medal.
Yeah.
So I got out a bigger pole, and tried to do what the sort of thing I would do in perfect conditions, warm, tailwind type scenario. And this was the worst conditions I'd ever vaulted in. And the sort of conditions, unless there was something big on the line, you just wouldn't do it because it was a bit insane. Yeah. And I ended up running through. Someone from the crowd on my first step, someone from the crowd called out, he's done, he won't take off again. And I kind of lost my perspective. And all I could think about is, not I'll show him, but I will take off next time no matter what. Because it didn't feel right on the first time. So that self-preservation kicked in, like abort. And it's just split seconds. You can't, I'm trying to take off, but then last second, your body tells you you're too close or it's not right. So you run through and you're like, I wish, you're trying to get off the ground. And so the next one, it felt wrong again. But it's all split seconds. And I attempted to take off too close and slipped because my heel struck down first instead of the spikes. So there's no grip. I tried to jump on that in a puddle and it slipped and dislocated my knee, tore the ACL, tore the meniscus cartilage off the bones and bruised the bone ends from the impact. And that was that. That was the last time I pole vaulted.
Wow.
And that was, and the pain was immense. I really wish the bit of this story I could just kind of include was, I was in shock and the adrenaline and it didn't really kick in the pain. But no, it was the other side. It was like someone had took my leg and just snapped it open. And I couldn't stop screaming, which was another thing that I really sticks in the mind because I was aware there was a lot of family members there. And I was just thinking, shut up. Like, I just couldn't. I wish I felt like, I remember instantly thinking, I wish I was like Mr. T, just knock me out. Like I wish, like maybe I'd bang my head a little bit and knock myself out. But no, I was fully awake and screaming.
Well, I have a bunch of teammates and stuff that have gone through, ACL, like just, it's the worst of the worst, and I'm just curious, you look like you're a really fit, healthy guy now. Like what was your recovery like? What are you doing now to stay healthy and kind of come back from that? Because that's a serious situation.
Yeah. And completely honestly, like my I hate this word, but a normal person, I'm all good. I can't pole vault. I can't do long distance runs. I can't do really run on uneven ground. In theory, technically, I shouldn't do basketball, but I play every week because I absolutely love it. But I play within myself. Like if I go flat out in basketball, we entered a 3-on-3 tournament this summer that was on a concrete court. And unfortunately, the team we were going up against were really good. Like we had to just go flat out just to, not be embarrassed, just to get some points on the board. The problem with that was the next day, I'm not joking, my knee swelled up and it took probably about 2 months for it to settle down because it was just the impact and it hammered it. And I know they told me as soon as sort of this happened and the issues with the 2 years of 2 years of operations, multiple operations and rehab, prehab, crutches, I'm going to have some serious issues with my knee. And it's, arthritis and it's going to be, screwed. It's probably like a super old person's knee as it is. And,
how old are you now?
I'm 39 next month.
Oh, wow. We're similar. Yeah. We're similar. I'm 38.
I'm 38 now. So there we go. Same age.
Yeah.
But, so in terms of, even as soon as the injuries happened, I was in the athlete mindset of how quick can I get back? And I was still training. I mean, it's a knee. So I was in the gym with my leg, like straight in the gym and crutches, just doing all and everything. Lots of hanging things, just everything apart from the knee. Even when I had the operation, apart from right off the back of it, because of blood flow and different things, I was in the gym again, just, ridiculous knee, but just doing all and everything. So keeping it going, trying to keep it going or keeping it going. And I was upbeat for a good kind of upbeat, in shock really for a good year before the reality of things started hitting in, going in probably for the second operation around that time. them not being able to save the cartilage as they had initially tried to do, having to take it all out, go back to square one, and just lost identity. I didn't know who I was, and the surgeons saying things like.
That's a big thing. Yeah. That's a big thing with athletes when their sport is taken away. They have so much of their identity wrapped up. Like, I'm a basketball player, or
I was a pole vaulter.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone introduced me as the pole vaulter.
Yeah,
and beyond that, I was just like, what the hell? And also, my job was all tied up in this. I was a teacher. In terms of lifestyle, they have the whole summers off. It's when I competed the most. You generally, if you can be disciplined, you can finish quite early. Again, if you're disciplined, and a lot of teachers would disagree with me on this, you don't take your work home with you. That's what I didn't. I would never take work home with me because, again, the core there of Awaken, that balance of work and life, not work. If you can't do it in the day, unless they're paying me to a level where they think they own me 24/7, which I would not sign up for, they can do one. If the job can't be done within the time of the job, it's not, I give 100%, but I'm not going to then, ruin my life in general and become very one-dimensional. And so not only did that kind of that lost aspect of it, but I just quit my full-time teaching job at the start of the summer because I was doing transitioning to doing my own business around youth strength and conditioning. And I had all that. So I'm very active as well. I relied too much on my physicality back then. So as soon as, something like a knee took me out of the game, I was, I didn't have much to fall back on. I didn't think anyway, too much of my identity was wrapped around that. So I was screwed basically.
No, that's hardcore, man. And I'm curious, how did you transition from teaching into, so what are you doing now? Are you still doing the training and the physical, aspect of it? Or are you doing more like the coaching and
I don't do, I don't do any physical training sort of specifically. If I'm working with someone, and obviously because I was a certified strength and conditioning coach for years. I trained Olympians. I trained, Great Britain sitting volleyball team was kind of what I went on to as well. So I've got that in my locker, but I don't focus on that. But again, if I'm working with someone and they've got a question, or I can see kind of the biggest issue is not, the newest business strategy. It might just be you need to sort out something else, kind of that becomes a priority. So that's definitely a key component. But no, I focus on mindset coaching and consulting and business mindset as well. And just that relentless nature and kind of philosophy and just becoming mentally strong for adversity, because it's going to happen to all of us probably multiple times in our life. And you don't want, when it hits the fan, as it did for me, and I was not ready, you don't want to then, right, I better try and sort this out, because when you're in it, it's a lot harder. But so that, ultimately, I don't think people back themselves as much as well. So, and a lot of the times, because of my experience around the mindset and business coaching comes in terms of, my areas of expertise, the public speaking, the podcasting, the best-selling books around that, if it's relevant. But that's something I'm very passionate about. And as I say, people don't back themselves enough, me included. I think it's very rare when you get someone who's, backs themselves too much to the point where it's not useful for themselves. I think the biggest thing holding most people back is themselves. They may think it's other people, but again, that's got really nothing to do with you. It comes back down to self-worth and that boldness and taking bold action and momentum. I've had momentum, I've lost momentum, and I choose to keep momentum, because when you lose it, it's tough, like anyone knows in any endeavor, to get it all moving started again. So in answer to your original question about in shape, I've never been in average person scenarios out of shape. I don't have this kind of fat person story to talk about. I do have a ruined athlete story to talk about, and mentally screwed and out of shape and depression. But I've never been, I'll say it, I've never been a porker. just to try and annoy someone and get a reaction. But
speaking of that, I just got off a big cleanse. I didn't eat for 7 days last week, so I just had my first meal in a week yesterday.
Wow.
I lost about 10 pounds. Like, I wasn't doing it to lose weight. Like, I'm like yourself. Like, I'm not a big guy at all, but it's just something I do now and then to kind of detox and cleanse my system and kind of,
I'm a big believer in intermittent fasting and doing full on fasts at certain times. And stuff like that.
what's your routine around that? Do you do intermittent fasting like consistently, or just a couple days a week, or is it like I'm learning more about?
Yeah, I mean, I have a something that it's basically my norm, so I barely even think about it now, which is, in a good way, because I think a lot of people's habits, good or bad, they barely even think about them. They're just their habits. But in terms of intermittent fasting, if I have to break it down, if I'm being more like strict on it, it's a simple 16-hour fast to 8-hour eating window. And we're just talking about time. And regardless of what you're eating, if we just, as simple as that, and the majority of the time, it's more like 14 hours, 14-10. And then at the very worst case scenario, for whatever reason, 12 hours sort of fast. And the reality is it's very flexible and very doable, which is what I like for certain people, because everyone does fasting every night anyway. It's just having a little bit, not a lot, a little bit of discipline to just clarify when you stop and not doing that little snack later or just getting up and eating out of routine or because that's what you've been taught. Even if you're not hungry, I know people are like, I don't even feel like eating, but I better eat now because I've got to go to work. I've got to do this. So I like the flexibility of it. You can have that window whenever you want. If you want to have breakfast, have breakfast. It just means, finish eating later. Finish eating earlier in the day. And other people like, actually, I'm not bothered about breakfast. You just, it's not necessarily eating less. It's just that little tweak. And it's regardless if you're traveling or it's almost, no, it's not. It is excuse proof even. It's just, and it builds discipline and will. And if you decide to do it, you do it. And there's loads of hormonal benefits around it. There's loads of, generally, if you do overeat, if your eating window is smaller, it's usually more likely that you're going to eat less or less calories than if you're eating excess. But in other ways, if you're not overeating, you're just eating a good, balanced, rounded, you're happy with your diet. It just, just tuning up the timing of the meals and stuff, and then you can have a better effect. And I've been doing that for 4 years.
Wow.
In that, and it's I love it. Like, it just
every day.
I don't even think about it.
Every day. Wow.
It's say because this is like, so worst case. This I put it in the book. This can accommodate a drunken 2 a.m. feast, because then okay. So let's say you're not even full of you say you decide I'm really hungry and I want to eat. It's your life. I want to eat a load of whatever at that point. So 2 a.m. So the next day, depending on what you can have that window. So then you go, okay, I might not eat till, okay, worst case scenario, 2 p.m. the next day. That's 12 hours.
Yeah.
So, and you can go longer. Or a lot of times within that, if I'm truly on the like 16, 8 kind of ratios, then once a week or at least once a month, then I would do a full day fast. But I do a feast fast as well sometimes. So it's where you eat all and anything you want. Again, because if I'm really on it, then obviously we're talking about not just the timing, but actually what I'm eating in that period in terms of how much, total calories and, proteins and fats and all that sort of stuff. But then I feast fast, because if you're being quite restrictive as well, so there's no point doing a feast if your rest of your week is already a feast anyway. But if you're being quite restrictive on the actual diet, what you're eating, then the feast fast scenario where you literally eat all and anything you want, as much as you want, for like usually again on a Sunday is a good day for it, because lots of that kind of thing, socializing, chilling, eating, that kind of thing. And then fast, at least 24 hour, maybe 36, maybe 40 hour fast after it. And so again, it's all just playing with timings, because you may eat 2 days worth of calories on the Sunday. I mean, like, eat anything. And if you want, but again, if you don't fancy eating a load of crap, don't eat a load of crap, because you think, oh, I can, I shall, I will. And then eat nothing on the next day. And over the 2 days, you got the average, so it's, and your body, but there's loads of hormonal benefits and mental benefits if you're being quite restrictive and feel like, oh, I can't keep this going. Well, after eating all and anything you want, satisfying that, if that's what you want, then that can work quite nicely as well. So it's worked for me in different shapes and forms, and so I put it in the book because I believe it's an option, and it's worked well for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the last 7 days not eating anything, like the first 3 days were tough, but from the last 4 it was just like, I'm just, your body adapts and goes into the state of, I guess, ketosis, I guess, is the Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast by this doctor, and he's saying that fasting is the best thing you can do for your body for longevity. Like it just and just continually
the cell
doing
regeneration and stuff like that. Yeah, I think
exactly.
I put it in the book as well. So the 16-8 model I'm sort of referring to, and I may have butchered it, abased it, and made it too simple, or just clarified it. That's how I put it in the book. Is based off it's Martin Berkman's 16-8 model, and I interviewed John Romaniello, who's the best-selling New York Times best-selling author of Engineering the Alpha, who's got the foreword in his book by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he talks about, in our interview, he talked a lot about intermittent fasting and timing, and we had that discussion. So I mentioned him and reference him in that section of the book as well.
And while you're doing your fasting, are you only having water, or can you have juices or smoothies, just nothing solid foods, or nothing at all?
So I don't generally have like a classic smoothie, because my smoothies can be quite full on.
Yeah,
you know,
likewise.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it wouldn't be a fast if I had one of my smoothies, which I have a smoothie every day that literally, you know, is a full meal. You could live off that all day for one day. Like, it's awesome. So when I'm being really strict, so it might be green teas, especially in the fasting, you know, what's it, organic India, some Tulsi tea, what else? So again, depending on how I roll, I'd mentioned again, this is why I like, there's so much variation of what works well for you. So depending on how I roll, at certain times, I know you're hitting the tea, but I do love a coffee. But when I'm being real strict, I wouldn't hit that. But in reality of, you know, over the years and stuff, so I'm not going to use the term that it's known as, but a good quality espresso coffee with some organic butter in, and maybe some oil and things, and a little bit of vanilla and stuff like that. It's become very cool, because I'll say it so everyone knows what I'm talking about, bulletproof coffee, but that's a brand or someone who's done it. But, you know, so that sort of thing, again, if you're really hungry, because it's the fats obviously in that, and it keeps going. So, and again, it's someone might say, oh, that's not strictly fasting. Well, yeah, but there's different versions. Like you could just be on pure water. So it's variations. But yeah, when I break the fast as well, it's a high fat, high protein kind of scenario, kind of deal. Again, there's, you know, variations of that. These are just guidelines, and again, I can do it very strict when I'm on it. Like if I know the rules, or not necessarily rules, the guidelines, and how to do it most effectively. But I also know how to do it for a long term, and you know what's going to get the most bang for your buck, and it's not going to kill you if you have a nut or something. But you know, I get it.
Well, let's we're getting kind of to the end of our call here. I know you've got another call after this.
No worries.
Last thing
I'm happy for sort of 10 minutes or so.
The other thing I wanted to point on is this is a pretty, you know, this is like my 14th episode or 15th episode I'm doing here. You've done 300. Awesome. You've done 300. I've got a bunch of others that have been recorded. I've got about 20 that have been recorded, but I haven't released yet. But you know, I've done about maybe 30 or 35, but only released about 15. But for yourself, with 300, I'm just curious about how are you producing your content? What percentage of those are you solo or with guests? And kind of your whole kind of business or monetization, are you doing anything with that around it? Or is this just purely content based? Like, I'm just kind of curious with other people that are running podcasts, what their kind of format is.
Yeah. So the first year was 3 to 4 episodes a week. That almost broke me. And the reason it was 3 to 4, because for the first year it was 3 guest episodes a week. There was no space for any of me, because and also, apart from almost breaking me, when some big guests like a Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power, was getting lost, because you could only mention him for a day virtually, because then it was like the next episode, the next interview. And so once I got a lot of episodes out there, more is, as I find out more and more is not better necessarily. So that's when I took a 6-month break, which I don't recommend. It's like kind of not the thing to do in terms, we talked about consistency and momentum, and I talked about having a momentum and losing momentum, maybe taking it for granted. I did need to move country. Well, I was moving country and I had a lot on my plate, so something had to give. And as I say, I was quite overwhelmed at that point. So I took a break for 6 months approximately, in terms of, and then in that period, moved countries, restarted, rejigged it, came back with 2 episodes a week for about a year. And now for the last year and a half, 2 years, it's been 1 episode a week. And when I switched to 2 episodes a week in that format, it's always now guest episode, interview, and then me, guest episode and me. So now as a kind of bare minimum, because again, it comes back to, I know how to do the strict intermittent fasting, but what is sustainable and longevity? What am I going to do till the end of time and approach it like that? So it's not a hassle. And it's, again, more episodes was not what was lacking in my podcast. It was making the most out of the episodes you have and, doing and having space to do other things as opposed to just churning out episode. So in the broadest sense, the podcast is a really good lead generator. I have had sponsors at various times, minor sponsors here and there. But then again, they're like gold dust, and I didn't really want a massive sponsor. I've promoted certain of my things that I'm up to. I used it as an elaborate research project for the book. I always knew it was going to be a book, Awaken Your Alpha, and I couldn't just sit there for 4 years doing the book. So coaching, consulting, in terms of things we talked about, if anyone thinks, who is this guy? Or I like the sound of this, you can dig as far as you want. You can go as far down the rabbit hole as you want. You will probably know more about me and better things if you looked online and dug as deep as you wanted than certain family members, because it's all out there. So you're going to know who I am, what I'm about, and you're going to either resonate with that like that or not. Either one is good because it will save us all a lot of time. And then if you want to, take action and there's a specific thing you need, or you just want someone to have your back in certain scenarios, I do masterminds, one-to-one coaching, less of that now. And I have a arena that I'm starting literally in the next month or two to make the most of all this content and clarify a little bit well. And a lot of my clients that I've worked with in the past, I asked them, what was one of the most beneficial things of working with me? And, you have your own ideas, but one of the answers that came back was that the accountability and the weekly calls where, regardless if there's something big going on, bad going on, indifferent going on, that consistent, because weeks and months and years fly by, to just that someone to be there to talk about certain things that you can't talk about with other people, and also just keep things moving and understanding that, because a lot of times some people feel like their problem is unique to them, and they can't get out of it, and it's not normal, and it's okay for other people and whatever, so that's where the arena came out, because historically, to work with me, it was either kind of, okay, you got the free podcast, you can get as much info as you want to work with me, right, pay a lot of money, one-to-one. And a lot of times, even in that scenario, I felt like I wanted it more than the person. So this arena version is kind of, the book is, $20. So now we got something there. And then there's a course, Awaken Your Alpha, beyond the book, basically, that digs deeper, that I couldn't fit in the book. Again, relatively inexpensive. And now the arena is an ongoing. So we have this, one of the components is basically this, call them ball sessions. Once a week, you can drop into this hour-long session, which is open Q&A on all the concepts in your life and in the book, and all my philosophies around this. And it's just open Q&A, but it also, as I say, it's priced at the point, because sometimes as well, when I've stopped working with people, because when you're really striving for it, it can be quite intense, and you do need to have time off and recovery. So the concept of the arena is something that it's there. It's almost like your insurance, because when you don't need to drop in, don't drop in. It's priced. So the expectation is you drop in 1 to 3 of, say, the 4 sessions over that month, and there'll be a group in there, and we go for it, because I can't stand it when people, or when in anything, when you feel like, I've bought this meal, I'm full at 3/4 of it, but I'm going to eat that last bit because I paid for it, and make myself feel sick. It's the same thing when we're like, I don't want to be here, but I've paid for this, so I'm going to turn up and just sit there. No, you've only got one life. Time is important. So I'm always focused on the outcome. So this is something I'm really excited about, because I feel this is the consistency over long term, and having that. And say some periods you will be jumping into that and literally dominating a meeting by, you've got a lot of questions and things that need attention. Right. And there'll be me and people's opinions that will help and, just keep you on the right path, and call you out when you're, talking crap. But in other times, you're busy creating your legacy, so you're not going to be on the call, and that is the idea.
Well, that's kind of where I'm kind of at now with, I think I'm doing like 4 or 5 podcast episodes this week, recording with different people in different time zones.
Yeah.
Plus now that I'm starting to get a drip of clients coming in and scheduling calls with them. And plus I'm a university professor. Like I have a day gig that I go to.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, trying to figure out the best way to, have a balanced platform of getting everyone's needs met, including my own, but also
this is what it makes me think of in the book, and I cut through it towards the end of this, the highest probability of the deepest impact. That's what I like to approach anything I'm doing. Because then it cuts out a lot of crap. Yeah, it cuts out a lot of crap. Why are you doing something? Why are you adding this bell or this whistle on something? Or you're doing this because this is what some gurus told you should have this in place. I've had people tell me I shouldn't do this arena version because, the classic thing of lower cost offerings, you get a lot more problems potentially with that mindset of the person who's in there. But it come back down. I understood that viewpoint, and you've got to just do what's right for you and what feels right for you, and how you can have, the highest probability of the deepest impact. And so it works both ways. I hate that word, create win-win scenarios all over the place. And, it's a working document, basically. You got to try things. Yeah. And that's the only way you can think about these things for years, or you can do it and then you'll know pretty quick.
Well, I'm definitely glad we did this, man. Thanks for reaching out to me. And, I'm glad that we got the chance to connect here. We're coming up to the top of the hour. I know that you've got a call.
Yeah, I got 5 minutes.
It's coming up to midnight here, so almost my bedtime. But any last words here, and how can people kind of reach out and connect with you?
Okay. So Adam Lewis Walker, Awaken Your Alpha across all social media. Instagram's quite a big one for Adam Lewis Walker's a good one. Facebook for both scenarios as well. And then there's a group, Awaken Your Alpha with ALW, that is obviously a bit more interactive at the moment. I'm doing a 30-day video challenge, so I'm on there every day at the moment. And we're, a variation of different things. If you've ever fancied doing a TEDx talk, that's something we're speaking about at the moment. And another thing that's just kind of, again, very organically coming out of my experience of this book, taking way longer than I wanted, but I'm very happy with it, is your book year. If you're thinking of, interested in getting that book out or starting it or launching it, or even, the flip side, how do you actually make money out of that? And it's not from selling the books generally, unless you sell millions. So that's something that's good. For the launch of the books, it is the end of the launch month now. I did have Claim Your Clarity video series and book that accompanies the book that is $20 or $10 on Kindle. If you still get that now, the link is ayalpha.com/book. And all you got to do to get that is, when you have a look at the book, pop me up a short 1-line review on Amazon, and then screenshot that across to me, and I'll get you that video course and the workbook on top of the book. And hey, I can't say fairer than that, but I will say as well, in finishing, one of my favorite quotes: life shrinks and expands in proportion to one's courage. I can't drop my mic because it's attached, but there you go.
I could drop mine here. That's amazing, man. That's amazing. No, thanks so much. And I'll definitely have you linked up below so people can kind of get connected with you. Do you know Andy Murphy, the Mindset by Design podcast host by chance? I know he's from Britain.
I do not, but I just like the name of that is like, oh.
Yeah, no, he's got a really big podcast called Mindset by Design. He might be a good guy. I'm actually interviewing him on Thursday.
Oh, yeah, if you can connect us two, that would be great.
Yeah. No, he's been in the podcast game a long time, and he's also from the UK. So I thought you guys might be doing some collaborations in the past. But yeah, after I'll mention I'll mention you to him on Thursday when I'm linked up with him.
Awesome. Cheers, Quinton.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Okay.
Cheers.
See you later.
Bye.
How do I get out of here?
I'll just stop it here and I'll end it.